In its short but storied history, Radical has made famous a number of black bowling balls that caught bowlers' attention for their back-ending performance and their unique core shapes. This one is no different. Enter Maximum Results. Quite possibly the best ball in the Results lineup to date. This one has the same shaped Radical Results core in the inner core, but it comes with a twist. The densities have been modified, which means the performance targets have been changed. Where this ball in the original designs was 0.027 intermediate differential, that's changed now to 0.030 intermediate differential, and the differential has gone up from 0.044 to 0.050. So what this means is that you're going to get the same great characteristic motion out of this ball that you did from the previous Results ball releases, but a lot more of it, especially in the mid lane and at the back of the lane. Mo was an innovator, and even though he's gone from us, he left a series of amazing core designs and core concepts. And this one was one of his latest projects, where he was able to modify the densities to get completely different performance targets without changing the core shape whatsoever. Surrounding this inner core is, of course, dynamic core. That's the blue stuff that you see when you drill into the outer. That means that you get increased hitting power at the pins, because what that dynamic core does is it strengthens up the strength to weight ratio of the material so that it doesn't compress so much at the pins. That means that it transfers more energy to the pins when it hits them. And of course, surrounding this one is the TS1 textured solid cover stock. This one has a lot of sparkle in it. That sparkle additive is going to give you a lot of mid lane grip and a lot of continuation at the back of the lane. Different from the Result Solid, of course, is the core cover combination of this one has different performance characteristics, which means that while the Result Solid was very strong, it had a small hook window, and for some players it went a little bit too forward, but the increased intermediate diff and the increased total diff of this one means it's going to read the mid lane hard and continue well. This core cover combination, in my opinion, is a real winner. And just a word about the textured solid cover stock. Sanded this aggressively at 500, 1500, you can really see the difference in the chemistry. You can actually feel it. If you run your hand across a freshly sanded bowling ball, you can actually feel the macroscopic, not just microscopic, particle-like texturing that's in the cover stock. It gives you almost a sharp or a fuzzy feeling as you drag your hand along it. And that is going to really change the performance characteristics of this ball in the mid lane compared to a ball that doesn't have texturing. Now we're going to take you to a ball that's really been turning heads in the industry, kind of making a splash for its unique characteristics of combining a performance core with a polyester cover. It is the Radical Spy.
Alias is a show about a spy.
Thanks, Buster. Very informative. This Spy contains the same core found in the Incognito. It has a total differential of 0.053 and an intermediate differential of 0.017. It's going to give you a smooth, continuous, strong motion, core shape-wise, but in this polyester cover stock, it's going to give you way, way, way less total hook than the Incognito series did. More on that when we visit the charts. This core also contains dynamic core outer core material. That's unique for a polyester ball as well. It's going to give you way more hitting power when you combine it with the Incognito inner core. That core material actually has a higher strength to weight ratio than the standard outer cores that you find in polyester balls, which means that it's going to transfer more energy to the pins for more impact when it goes through them. And finally, the polyester cover stock that surrounds this ball is also unique. It's textured, which means it has a sparkle additive that's going to give you more mid-lane traction than a standard polyester ball. It has the same base polyester resin that you would typically find, but because of the texture additive, it's got actually a harder material, and it actually has a little more mid-lane traction than a standard polyester ball because of the textured additive as well. At its standard polished finish, you don't see a big difference in total traction between a polished textured cover stock and a polished regular polyester cover stock, but if you sand those two down, then you will get a big difference in mid-lane traction with the textured, and that is definitely aided by the Incognito core inside. So enough about that. Let's take it to the comparison chart and show you how the Spy and the Maximum Results stack up to the rest of the Radical lineup. This chart contains all the releases in the current Radical lineup. They're sorted by oil volume on the bottom, from lightest on the left to heaviest on the right, and on the y-axis by response to friction, with the sharpest responding balls at the top of the chart down to the smoothest responding balls at the bottom of the chart. Our two newest releases, Maximum Results and The Spy, are highlighted in yellow. As you would expect with a name like Maximum, the Maximum Results is built to handle a heavy amount of total oil volume and has a strong yet smooth overall motion. It has a ton of mid-lane traction. It's going to be the earliest reading of the Results series by a notable amount, and it's going to give you a abrupt transition in the mid lane with a heavy yet continuous roll at the back of the pattern. Compared to a like-drilled Result Solid, this one has a longer hook window. It starts earlier by at least a foot, and it's going to give you just an overall more sideways and yet more continuous motion than the Result Solid, which seem to go a little bit longer, have a more abrupt response to friction, and get a little more forward off the back of the pattern compared to a like-drilled Maximum Results. This Maximum Results is going to be about as much ball as any player could desire for the heaviest of patterns when all your other Radical balls are going too long or are simply just a little too slow to recover if they do start in the right part of the mid lane. And it's easy to ball down to a ball like the Incognito if you still need a ball for heavier conditions but the mid lanes start to open up and you need just a little more length and a little more smooth motion off the back of the pattern. And then from there, it's an easy transition into the rest of your arsenal. If the pattern transitions so that you need a longer, sharper ball, the Results Plus is a perfect option. And if you need to get a similar heavy rolling, early mid-laning, but smoother motion overall, then something like a Pandemonium Solid or a Bonus would be a nice step down from the Maximum Results. Here's my friend and collegiate teammate Ben Sobel throwing the Max Results on a typical house shot that has a good amount of mid-lane friction. His PAP is 4 over by 2 up, and we laid this ball out 45 degrees by 4.5 inches by 35 degrees to give him good mid-lane continuation on a variety of medium-heavy to heavier shots. You can see that as long as he stands left and gets in enough head oil, this ball gets down the lane with ease before making a hard response at the back of the lane. This ball is useful on a wide variety of heavier patterns and sport shots. Shifting our focus to the complete opposite end of the chart, we have the Spy. This performance polyester ball has a performance core inside of a polyester cover stock. That's the same base polyester material that you expect any spare ball to be made out of, but it has texturing additive that helps the mid-lane traction. At polished finish, you get a lot of length out of this ball, the most length. Even though this is a smooth responding ball, it's going to get down the lane better than any of the other balls on the chart. It's a little deceiving that it's at the bottom of the chart even though it gets the most length because the y-axis is based on response, not length necessarily. So this ball is built to play in the friction. When Phil had the idea to put this ball in the lineup, his idea was, well look, the USB-C said, hey, we don't have to oil the outsides anymore, and a lot of house shots are very overblocked, and some house shots even have 0 oil on the outside of, say, 10. So some of the slower speed players and some of the heavy-handed players are going to be able to play dead up the right side of this pattern without worrying about the ball over-bouncing when it encounters all of the friction that some of these house shots encounter. The Spy is also going to be useful on very short sport patterns. Patterns of, say, 35, 36 feet or less, especially ones that don't have too much volume. If they have medium volume and a very short length, or if they're just drier patterns overall, some of the sport patterns are in the 23-24 mil range, I think the Spy could tackle that as long as you keep your angles closed with no problems. If you truly want to use this ball as a performance option and not a spare ball, I suggest sanding the cover down with a little bit of under grit, like 1,000 pad or something, and then going back over top of it with 2,000 or 3,000 so that you have some grit underneath and a smoother finish, and you still get the length characteristic that the polyester offers, but you have a little more mid-lane traction and a little more front-to-back security overall. Just remember, this core flares, so be careful when you make your spares. God, that little jingle I just did was stupid, wasn't it? The Maximum Results in the Spy are available in pro shops worldwide right now. Make sure you stop in and get them. While you're here, make sure you like and subscribe to my YouTube and Facebook channels, Buckosh, I make new content as new releases from the brands of Brunswick come out, including the new releases that are coming up for Bull Expo, which I'm very excited about. Feel free to drop a comment below. I'm happy to respond. I'm sure some of you have your hands on these new releases already, so let me know what you think about them, because I feel like these are both very unique pieces. Until next time, thanks for watching.